Okay, what's up, you guys? Just woke up, of course, right? About to work out, but I was scrolling on this woman's page who I followed because I felt as if she was a positive contribution to like what we are trying to do when it comes to like actual liberation, right? And I still feel that way. So, like, it's not what I'm about to say, even after all of what I'm about to say, I still believe that she plays a positive contribution to that. So her video that I saw was basically like, it wasn't basically like, this is what she said. If you haven't read and she named like 3 books or something, then like, I'm not ever going to take your opinions on liberation serious. And like what's coming straight to my head is that there's so many different ways to to teach a person. There's so many different ways to let a person know, like, okay, here are resources that I feel like would be really valuable to know, instead of in that way of like, I just won't take anything you have to say serious if you haven't read these 3 books. I think that there are a group of intellectuals, of advocates, of activists and etc. that are holding on to and continue to enforce those very white supremacist ways of looking at knowledge, which is like, so we know, like, as far as however long ago, knowledge was only given to like certain people. And that created this notion that those that weren't getting that knowledge and those curriculums and etc., their value, like they had no value when it came to like their words and their experiences and what they thought was needed in their communities, environments, etc. Which is obviously wasn't the case, right? And so I feel like, so then those same people who've kind of been like, their value have been taken away because they weren't given the resources for whatever reason that they may be. A lot of them then feel as if they really have nothing to contribute to that, which then I think plays a part in even what we're seeing today, where there's so many people who feel like because they don't know big words and they don't do this and do that, that like they don't still have an understanding of what oppression looks like and what liberation can look like, which I just don't think is true. There's so many people, and this is why, so many people, when we're saying like aren't awake and aren't woke, right, and kind of just like allowing things, I think that this is kind of what plays a part in that, is that because there is this notion of how we look at knowledge, and it's so much shame based on like those who aren't doing it in a particular way, those people feel like, yeah, if I'm not doing it in this way, then like I have nothing to give to the world. And that's just not the case. And so I just want us as everyone to understand that and to remember that and to hear ourselves, right? Because again, it could be with the right intentions, because you really want this person to read this book and you feel like these books have so much important knowledge in there. But I just don't think like making a person feel like shaming a person into kind of like reading them is the way to go, when I feel like we are trying to rid ourselves of shame, and that doesn't equal self-awareness, right? Like we understand that like self-awareness is important and we should always keep that, and like holding people accountable is important. But shame is just something that is, we internalize and we project it, and it's never like, it never has a positive outcome. I also like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of people, and this is just like something that just popped into my head, but I feel like there is a group of people who are smart, right? And that can be activists, that can be advocates or whatever, but they're moving with so much trauma and anger, which I think is valid, right? But they're letting that kind of dictate how they like move. I don't know how to explain that, to where sometimes it feels like they lose sight of like, it is still about, right, the liberation of everyone, regardless of who you are, right? Like, it just feels like some people are like, it's not necessarily about the liberation of all, or it feels like it is like an ego thing, right? Like you now, like you want to be the next, like whoever activist that you looked up to so bad, and it's like more about that than like, which in you then in your head have this like weird thing that you must be this thing, and you must talk like this and do that. So then you project that idea onto other people, and it's like, if you aren't doing that, or if that person isn't doing that, then it like, again, devalues them. But also, yeah, I just feel like in so many ways do I see that, where I feel like, again, most people, you are going, like most advocates and intellectuals and people that have done that, like you are going to be upset. You are going to have passion behind these things. But just make sure that that isn't controlling and dictating how you decide to show up for other people. Yeah, and show up for yourself, really, Yeah, I don't know about that last part. I was just, my brain, like, if I allow myself, but anyways, to stay on to what I was saying. Like, yeah, we just have to, like, let's allow people to feel like they can be a part of the conversation, because they can. Because there are also humans on this planet having the same type of experience, regardless if they don't have the knowledge or whatever. Like, I feel like we get the knowledge part, but it's like, we need action. And we need people to understand that we need them. And for them to understand that they do have value and an importance in the movement of actual progression and liberation. So all of that may have sounded like I'm standing on what I said, right? But sometimes I'm like, my brain, I know I ramble, and so I don't know when I'm actually saying the words out loud if if they're going, or if it's happening how I want it to. But yeah, I just think that I see that so much, and it's not just with this woman, like, it's not just with her. It's with so many people who, like, I think, again, it's because, like, we internalize and we understand how we all look at knowledge, and how, like, people even have shamed us for not knowing certain things, to where we do that to other people, which I just don't, it doesn't always have that same effect of like, okay, well, like, let me get in the booth and let me, like, learn this, It can have the complete opposite effect, where a person just doesn't want, or doesn't feel like they can be a part of it, and it just feels like whatever to them, and it just makes them not want to be a part of it. And then one can say, like, oh, like, they should still care regardless, right? Yeah. However, I just feel like if our true intention is like liberation and wanting people to, like, feel safe in the fact of, like, not knowing certain things, or just having their own experiences and stuff, and if it's not really, like, if we want to kind of declutter all of the shaming and, like, judging and all that, then there shouldn't be like this, like, oh, you must know this and do this. At the end of the day, if you have the intent to try and understand what is going on around you and what has been going on, you will find the answers. When you allow yourself to do that thinking and all that without a biasness, without you wanting something to be right so bad, you will find what has just really been happening. And it's not just in one book, because there's been many people that have written books that understand it, that are saying the same thing. And let me be clear, and this is my last thing I want to say, but I do believe, though, knowing as much as you can, reading all the books and stuff, it does allow one to understand a couple of things. Like, so, like, when we're going into spaces like government spaces, and we're trying to rid ourselves of certain laws, or just, like, whatever, it is good to understand the system and to know all the big words, right? And to know all of these things, and to understand how we got here throughout history, because there's always going to be someone who's trying to, like, play you and try to belittle what it is that you're saying if you aren't coming with just, like, actual facts, right? There are so many ways on how liberation could look, right? So what I'm saying, like, even with, like, water systems and, like, food distributing and, like, shelter and all these things, there are many different ways, and there's things that we don't even know about, right? That someone does know about, or people do know about, that can just be so beneficial to us and help us in a way that is like not destroying the earth. And so, yes, this video was most definitely not about the fact of like not taking knowledge and reading seriously. It was about not looking at knowledge as this like one-dimensional thing of like, okay, you have to, like, this is your curriculum, and like you must know this in order for us to like let you in, of like to listen to what you say and what you think may help in this. Because that, again, it just feels like a hierarchy. It feels very much like not freedom for all, to where we really believe that everyone has a chance to like be a part of progression, success. I believe that there are so many people out there who haven't really spoken up or whatever that do want to speak up. But again, they feel like they don't have the wording, the correct wording, and they don't know all the terminology, and they haven't read every book, and again, because of how we all look at knowledge, they feel like they can't be a part of the conversation. And so I'm here to let you guys know that your experience matters. Regardless of what anyone else says, your experience matters. And it most definitely matters once, you are, because I think a lot of us, like, a lot of people have experience, right? And once they are given the time to step back and to really observe that experience, and to observe themselves and observe the world, and once they're given because with social media, with the internet and everything, you have so many documents and research and all that at your fingertips. And so it's just that a lot of people don't have the time, a lot of people, again, or they just genuinely don't feel like they can be part of the conversation and all that. And so the more that we make them feel like they can, the more that I feel like they'll find themselves looking up things and having questions and all of that. But I'm saying that really your experience is enough. And if you have the intention to heal, if you have the intentions to play a positive role in the progression of actual liberation, and when you're not thinking within a biasness, you will find just the truth, which is the knowledge. And that can be done in so many different ways, and that can be said in so many different ways. But the goal is really just to dismantle this social structure that we've all been in, right? And we all have different roles on how we do that as well. So don't feel discouraged. Like, understand how this affects you, right? Understand that this is just way more deeper than just giving the power to a certain group of people and like letting them kind of dictate. Like, it's way deeper than that, because your life's at stake. People that you love, their life's at stake, right? Oh my gosh, I know this is for real my last thing. I promise. I'm trying not to, but I just have to say it. I feel like there's this weird thing that I'm seeing with like advocates and activists and intellectuals that decide on their own that they're going to get on platforms and they're going to talk about these things and explain these things to people, because they understand that not everyone do have these resources or time or just whatever, and that there can be positive effects that happen from doing so, like talking to people. Like, you see people with that mindset, right? But then in the same token, is that the phrase? But in the same breath, I know that's one. I know that's a phrase. In the same breath, they'll be like, I don't have to like explain to people. People should just like get it. Like, it's not my job for people to. And this is just my perspective and how I'm seeing it. So like, what are you doing then? I feel like if your goal is to do all those things that I was just saying, and you're talking about these things, and you're, because you can be an advocate for things and not necessarily like dedicate your life to like talking about it in public spaces or on platforms or whatever. But there are people that do so with the same of like they don't feel like they have to be aware of how they say things, because we at the end of the day we just understand that people sometimes are going to take things and try and run with them. People aren't sometimes even, or they're taking things that you say and they are taking it in a negative way, and that's not how you meant it. But I do think it is your responsibility to make sure you're saying exactly what it is that you're trying to say. I think it also is to, when you are talking about things, to try to not, when you are talking about these things and when you are teaching or whatever, to not do that in like a shameful way or a judging way to where it feels like it is hard for people to listen to you because of humans being humans and people taking things the wrong way and stuff. And again, and I'm not saying that sometimes that is annoying, right? And sometimes it is like you should why'd you take it that way? And all of those things. However, I just believe it's your duty. You signed up for this.